Epic Loot Radio. Epic Loot Radio.
And welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Epic Loot Radio. My name is Brian, and joining me for the first time, we're redoing some stuff here. We're mixing it up. We got Kirk. Kirk, why don't you take a moment just to introduce yourself? You're running a channel, What's New Video Games, and today we're going to be talking about what's new in video games, what we're excited about, what we're playing about. But man, dude, welcome to the channel. Welcome in. Give everybody what they want to know. Who are you, and what you got going on?
So I'm just some random dude that puts videos on YouTube from time to time. No, I'm trying to start up like a small video game outlet that is focused on like video game coverage, doing like reviews and developments and stuff in the news, content drops on like free games like Apex or Fortnite and stuff like that. But definitely like the big players. I just put up a review for Madden 24. And so go check that out if you want to. But the channel is What's New Video Games. And yeah, that's what brought us together is sort of we both have an interest in covering not just games, but like sort of like what's going on in the space. But both of those things, I mean, you obviously did a lot of coverage of Final Fantasy, the MMO 14 over the years and the recent developments of that. So I think that's sort of what brought me to actually see, finding you essentially is sort of all the stuff that was popping off for that with the fan fest and everything. So yeah, and then we linked up and you were like, why don't you come on the show, which I greatly appreciate the invite and I'm happy to be here.
You got a lot of natural insights. So he's being very humble. He's a lawyer. He's appeared on other content creators, especially talking about the Activision Blizzard deal, which we're not going to talk about because I just want I just want it to be done. Let's just get that one over and
it's done with. Though. It's not.
I know. It's just what is it? It's like, oh man, there's a phrase it's the thing that just keeps coming back and you're like, all right, the cat came back the very next day or something like that. I'm dating myself, but it's like there's something that stuck in my head, and so we'll just move on because that just seems like a very bad way to start a podcast. But beyond that, let's kick off this show. We're going to be setting a new tone. Obviously, you guys can come hang out with us while we live stream. This is also put out on MP3 audio, and I hope you guys enjoy that. You can subscribe where all podcasts can be found. So if you have a podcast platform, this podcast is on it. Just search Epic Loot Radio. I'll try to include links and stuff like that to make it easier. And we do appreciate your time. Especially a shout out to all the audio listeners and shout out to the live listeners. We got Joyful's Arcade, who actually let's kick this podcast off right with what we're playing right now. Lots of games coming out. Like this year has been a banger of a year for me in my perspective. But you, me, and Joyful, we got together on Discord and we're playing some Halo Infinite Season 4.
So random.
Random. And but that's like, hey guys, we played this game together. What else are you playing? What's on your up to come radar?
Well, I've been up to my eyeballs in Madden 24. I played the entire 10-hour trial. I actually lost like
EA Access or whatever it is.
EA Play. It's just with Game Pass. So if any of your viewers have Game Pass, you go play Madden 24 for 10 hours right now. $70 game. You can just try it out for free. And like 10 hours is a lot.
Yeah.
The PS Plus trials.
Too.
Yeah. The PS Plus trials, they're like 2 hours tops, I think. These 10-hour trials over, and to be clear, I don't want to shade PlayStation or anything. I mean, I know you're like primary Xbox, so you probably wouldn't care.
I prefer Xbox. I'm not primary. My PlayStation's right here.
Fair enough.
I have 2 PlayStation controllers at my desk at all times.
So to be fair, you can get EA Play on PlayStation, I think for $5 a month or something.
It's just an extra fee, yeah.
You get the same trial if you have EA Play, but it's baked into your Game Pass subscription, which is really helpful. So that's why I played it on Xbox. And I lost like 7-8 hours of my footage. So I literally was going up to the minute of like I got the final bit of footage I needed for the review. Like as it was like, you have 5 minutes left in the trial. I was like stressing out, So I was playing Madden all weekend. I've been playing a lot of Hunt Showdown. Shout out to Crytek. They have taken that game from being like incredibly niche and having a very, very small player base to over the summer, they their peak player base of like 45,000 players, concurrent players, I think. And that's because they have like an ongoing event right now. They're doing like a battle pass. Yeah, that game's really awesome. They stand to hit it big, I guess, by being the first in the like extraction shooter game, which for whatever reason, or I guess scene, for whatever reason, that scene seems to be like the new breakout territory that like everybody wants to jump in. You know, if our viewers out there saw like the PlayStation Showcase like a month and a half ago, I think now, it was primarily focused on like a bunch of live service games that seem to be extraction shooters. So
okay, yeah,
for that reason, this seems to be like the new frontier. You know, everybody's sort of giving up on the battle pass model. They're like, okay, Fortnite and Apex, they already exist. We're not going to be able to muscle out the big contenders there. Let's jump on this sort of, we're anticipating this is going to be a trend. Let's go do it. But players like Hunt and Tarkov, like they've been doing this, man. So if this type of game gets big, the experience that these devs have with these games being out in the ether for, 4 or 5 years, it's already paying off for Crytek, and more people are recognizing that Hunt is a really cool, very unique game with not a lot of like, kind of game mechanics or anything that you would bristle at. There's microtransactions, but it's completely cosmetic and nothing's like in your face, like buy this now or like whatever.
Or just, like, it goes away next week and you're like, oh man, it's like, how did you get that skin? Well, I was here this one random week and it had that.
And they literally have a battle pass like once a year. Like it's like a big event. Like they're like, we're going to pull this out for the event. Like it's not for the point of we want to make money all the time. It's like, we're going to give you 50 tiers to go through. We've made some very bespoke content. It's literally like actual guns that you can unlock and stuff, and all that's free in the battle pass. Any of the actual substantive unlocks that affect your gameplay is all in the free battle pass, and they pull that out once a year, and it's a big event, and a lot of people are noticing. So Hunt Showdown, check it out.
Okay, that's really good to hear, especially because it's what I think about in a marketplace of ideas is like that's where we kind of are in right now, and the good ideas I want to reward, right? Because we want to have those metrics. Because, but like you said, we played a little bit of Halo this last week on a Thursday randomly, and their battle pass model I want to champion because despite season 1, 2, and 3's core problems, of which I vented frustration, and I try to avoid that. Like I have to get to a point where I am just in a way feeling a little bit defeated about a game before I'm like, let me go and put this out on the internet for all eternity. But season 4 really delivers, and I still have all of my previous battle passes. So being that they've, in my view, have solved a lot of the problems with the current season, all of my past seasons are still preserved for me, and I actually appreciate that immensely. And so I think, I hope the battle pass evolves to that, because the other game that I'm playing, I don't know if this has been on your radar at all, is Wayfinder, which launched to early access this last week's Thursday as well. So in fact, people were like, why are you playing Halo on Thursday? Don't you know Wayfinder comes out? And I'm like, don't you know it's a game as a service game? And that means when it comes out, you're probably not going to play it. Like you're going to want to play it, but you won't be able to play it. And I was correct. So I was able to kick
the Diablo thing all over
yeah.
again.
Oh, every time. And it's so funny because like I tend to rub people the wrong way because they're frustrated. I'm frustrated, but I also approach it at I understand it. Like I can understand why this happened. I understand why they didn't have enough servers. Yeah. Well, exactly. So I don't end up coming off as like somebody who like people are like, you're just defending the devs. I'm like, I'm just explaining what the reality of this world is. And I share in your frustration, but I can't divorce that in my mind so that I end up having that kind of conversation. But I was able to kick back, play it on Sunday. Absolutely amazing. And what they're doing with their battle pass, which is also interesting, is that you buy the battle pass, you keep the battle pass, but they only sell you the battle pass during that season. And so their whole take is actually unique. It's like you're working on like this tower of rewards, and you kind of traverse the tower however you want with the various keys. So I appreciate what they've delivered, and I'm actually having an enjoyable time with it thus far. And so, man, dude, it's a good time to be a gamer. Go ahead.
Can you talk about that more? This is actually completely off of my radar. I have seen that name thrown around a little bit. Although I think I was conflating it with Viewfinder, actually, which is an
yeah,
indie game that
dude.
came out like
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. That is actually very good. So people go check that out.
Mhm.
But what's the genre of game for this? What are the game mechanics?
Ooh, good. The show was not. We did not block a lot of time for Wayfinder talk, but I'm excited that we're having some of it. So it is an action
We're gonna
RPG.
get off the rails, man.
Dude,
Come on,
dude. This show should be named Off the Rails with Kirk and Brian, but we're gonna keep it the radio just because I'm stubborn. It literally is that an action RPG MMO light, and it has this. Like when you play it, the action combat is, I think, so solid. It's just instantly fun. You immediately start to feel kind of Diablo roots, but then it expands into kind of a shared world. So the instance dungeons are a big kind of driving part. And then all of a sudden, when you really are just like living in this kind of world and you're seeing other characters running around with the art style, it gives you WildStar vibes. And for anybody who remembers WildStar, like that was an MMO that's no longer with us. Rip WildStar, but there were some real funny things and some real like nice aesthetics, and so I'm finding that the gameplay in and of itself is driving it. I'm not necessarily interested or too connected to the story, but I'm paying attention to it. But there's so many things I'm like, I have no idea what this means. Okay, we're gonna go into this thing and we're gonna go kill this boss. I'm game, and I love that, and the fact that it also is the multiplayer aspect of it is a big driving factor for me. But it's a technical free-to-play game, but because it's early access, you have to buy the Founders Pack to get a part of it, and it's PC, PS5, and eventually, once early access is concluded, it will actually roll out to Xbox with cross-play, cross-save as well. So it's in and of itself, I think they've, outside of the server and queue issues, I haven't seen any problems, and that's high praise for the team for what they've been able to deliver. But I know they're not happy because I've been tweeting out like, we're so sorry, and there's whenever you partake in this,
better that than nothing,
well, that, and then they're also like, hey, we're gonna like give people these rewards, and we're gonna do these, like they're gonna come up with a plan to kind of, in a way, like I don't feel we need compensation, but when a dev does that, when these service issues are obviously happening, it goes a long way. It's literally just depositing trust into the bank with the player base, as opposed to like, well, what do you guys want? You're like, you should have, sorry that our game's popular. Like they're always they're caught off guard in that case. But anything else that you've been playing? Because I see we got Modern Warfare 3 behind you. Are you excited about that coming out here later this year?
I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna wait and see on that one.
No hot take here for Kirk. All right.
Yeah, like I was excited for Modern Warfare 2, mostly because of like brand name recognition, which I hate myself for that. Like it's just a name. Like it means nothing for them to reuse these names. It's a completely different game with completely different systems. But I did get excited for Modern Warfare 2, and then I played the beta, and then I wasn't excited anymore. And that was basically the end of that. So, I don't know. I'm not like a big time Call of Duty gamer, so I don't really have any like takes on like the gameplay of the new Modern Warfare 2 or whatever. I really liked Modern Warfare 2 on the Xbox 360, and the new one is, I mean, it's just a modern take on that. It's fine. It'll be interesting to see what they do with this one. I know a lot of people were complaining about sort of like the whole like sentiment when the game came out last year was that, oh, this one's just catering to the casual gamer dads or whatever on their flat screens in their living room, which I never understood, because like like what, like that's what percentage of the gaming audience is that? Probably a large portion. So not only is that Patrick Pender says it's fine.
Your hot take. That's fine.
It's fine.
What a reasonable take, because the internet. That's what we'll pivot to in a little bit with the Starfield discussion. But Twitter in and of itself is a source of absolute insane hot takes, and then Kirk bringing it in with
here's
the
my hot
rational
take,
gamer. Yeah, okay.
Here's my hot take. I thought they said they weren't making a game this year. I thought they said, when that was one of the main draws for me for Modern Warfare 2, and this could just be, I don't know, I could just be wrong, I could just be misremembering, I don't know. I didn't look it up online before we got on the show, but I genuinely thought that they said, hey, like the Assassin's Creed thing, basically, from like back when they put out 2 games in 1 year, which I liked both of those, by the way. That's another hot take. But they were like, yeah, maybe we got a little too carried away. We literally made 2 games in a year. You guys didn't like that. So like, whatever. And Call of Duty was like, we put out a game every year. And, after COVID and everything, and just the strain that this takes, we're going to actually basically preserve. There's a lot of live service games that are doing well right now. I mean, look at like Rainbow Six Siege. Like, how old is that game?
Right.
We're going to preserve this game ecosystem for Modern Warfare 2, for 2 cycles, basically 2 years. We're going to skip a, fall Call of Duty release cycle and prioritize like updates in Warzone during that time. And then we're going to put out, another banger in 2 years instead of 1. And they just didn't do that. So I don't know what happened. But that would have been very disappointing to me, because one of the main reasons I was thinking about buying Modern Warfare 2 is like, if I do spend $70 to $100 on this game, which you basically have to spend 100 because it's like pay to win. So like, why are you even spending 70? You're just gonna get dunked on by 12-year-olds. But if I spend $70 to $100 to play this game, then the longevity adds a better value proposition for me to get my money's worth out of that. Like Destiny or any of the like MMO light games that you play out, and not that you play Destiny, but you play MMO light games. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I figured like you're kind of into that genre. So like it's more value for what you're paying for. And they're like, yeah, no, we're just going to release Modern Warfare 3 and make a boatload of cash again. So you'll buy it. Like, whatever.
Yeah, they like, you like 2? Hey, we got a 3rd. Here you go.
But why did they say that if they didn't have to say that?
I honestly just wonder if it's legitimately that it's all hinging on, hey, we're waiting for to close. We're going to close. All right, we haven't closed yet. We should probably announce something, because if it doesn't close, because like literally it's like, okay, we're closing in July. We got this. They're like, okay, no big deal. And then it's like, okay, well, they're still their own independent operating company. And so they got to make that kind of call. Microsoft has no sway. I don't know. This is obviously theory. You're the lawyer here, so you would maybe have a little bit more insight to like contractual stuff. But I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, they're not the same company. And so it's August. What's happening this fall? Okay, we'll just release this because we were working on it. It was done. And we were just going to hold off on an announcement, because that's easy to do. Because you could have just closed. It could have been secretly just been like, no, we're going to just wait. But, kind of the hand was forced. That's my opinion. And also, as the Sony contract, they got a good point, Game the Grave. They haven't that still exclusivity deal as a part of the early access things with Sony as of this, like ending this like year. So this is the last time.
Phil couldn't stop it. Phil tried.
He tried.
He couldn't get in there in time. He got exclusive skins and guns and all operators, all kinds of stuff. Phil tried his best. He got grilled by lawyers for 2 days straight, and
that was wild, dude.
Yeah. we're not talking about it.
No,
we're not talking about it.
It's done.
On that point though, just to be clear, I know like probably literally nobody watching cares about this, but I do. Your channel is all about like integrity and your character and stuff. Well, that's one of the underlying values of it. It's not what it's all about. But I am not actually a lawyer. I went to law school.
Okay.
I'm not licensed to practice. So
I
know no, not at all. So, and a lot of people don't even know the distinction for that, but like just for integrity's sake and out of respect for like my potential future colleagues, like a Richard Hogue or something, like I am not equal to them yet. I went to school, I have a degree, but I am not licensed to practice law.
Are you working on the license though?
An attorney. I am. It's tough. It's
okay.
Tough.
Oh no, I know it's freaking hard, dude.
Yeah.
But
it's tough to do this and that as well. Probably bit off more than I could chew, but whatever. We're having a good time.
Man, dude, you only got one life. Bite it all off. Let's go. All right, let's. I'm gonna pivot a little bit on the conversation though, because you brought up a couple of really interesting points. But I want to take it back into our Halo 4 discussion for a little bit, because we were talking about battle passes in and of itself. I invited you back into Halo 4 as a part of just like, hey, let's hang out, play some games. I enjoy talking to you. This is a lot of fun. By the way, you're coming on the podcast on Monday. It's a good opportunity for us to continue just to get to know each other a little bit better. But what would you say? Because you talked about extraction shooters, you talked about the hunt, you talked about like Modern Warfare, Call of Duty. What does Halo need to do to really truly start to win people back? Is it a slow march up a hard hill, or is there like, do you think there's something big off in the horizon that they're working on that will get people engaged and re-excited about Halo Infinite?
Oh man. So the way that you worded that question, what does Halo need to do to get people back in? Oh God. I mean, so there's two sides of this, right? There's the fact that 343, for whatever reason, has not been, let's say, the most punctual in terms of putting content out. In fact, they've lagged pretty far behind. I don't know if I want to say the industry standard, but I guess the main players, the people out there that we respect and admire and engage with their content, like a Bungie, like a Epic, like a Activision, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, they are not quite keeping pace, and that's probably an understatement. That being said, if you gave the game to somebody else, if you gave the game to a different dev, I guess I'm going to answer your question with a question, which I hate myself for.
It's okay.
What would that dev have to do to quote unquote win people back? Like,
Right.
Unless it's going to become Apex Legends, or it's going to become, an extraction shooter, it's going to become some other mechanically distinct game from what we know and love about Halo. I don't know what they can do to innovate basically what Halo is as an online lobby multiplayer game. Like, COD is still the same, and people play COD. So what is it? Like, do people just
COD also has a lot of new modes, right? Like, when you go play like DMZ, when you go play Warzone, like, you're experiencing something that it feels next generational, even though the battle royales have been with us for a little while. You're on this massive map, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so that's like, chat, like, in my point in answering the, the question that, you tossed back this way, I think they need to have these kind of modes. I think the fact that if they're afraid of this kind of representation for these modes themselves in their game, they're automatically just kind of like shooing off a big part of the market. And I enjoy Arena, like I do, but Arena doesn't necessarily have as big of a draw as it either used to have, or it's just overshadowed by things in the shooting space that has an even bigger, draw.
But and Brian, then they're just chasing the next trend though. And that has shown time and time again to not be super productive or lucrative. Right. I mean, look at Ubisoft's Hyperscape. Yeah. That game showed up and then was here for like a moment, and then it's gone. Right. Because everybody's
that's
like,
the risk.
Oh yeah, you made a battle royale like the other four that already exist.
Right.
I'm
just gonna go back to Fortnite. Like if you
Ubisoft
guys
has the budget, the resources, the money, the know-how. Some might dispute the know-how, but they have all the resources that they need to make a game that's successful, that follows certain trends. Yeah. And I think the only way, first off, I think the problem is that Halo has sort of come and gone as a mainstay tentpole, like zeitgeist, all-encompassing, occupying type of force. In the same vein as like, everything has its time. People on the street don't talk about Breaking Bad quite as much as they used to. They still talk about it, but it doesn't occupy this sort of pinnacle on the hill. Yeah. Those both put our hands
slap the mic.
Put our hands all over the screen at the same time. It doesn't occupy that like pinnacle on the hill type of status. And Halo's like the same way. Like 2008, 2009, Halo was top dog. Nothing is touching Halo. I would argue, at least from a like critical standpoint or like public opinion standpoint, maybe not a financial or like lucrative standpoint, even Call of Duty couldn't match Halo. Like, people loved Halo, and there's a level of quality and polish there. There's a level of narrative and storytelling that also complemented the awesome, multiplayer lobbies that you could go into with your friends. That was just unrivaled. And I think that time has sort of come and went. So the pushback or the dislike of Halo Infinite, I think it says less about Halo Infinite as a failure of a game in terms of game design and not having the things that it needed to succeed, and more about it just being pretty decent Halo game in, the 2020s.
Yeah.
And people just being like, that's not satisfying anymore. There's all this other stuff out there that I can engage with that is like, there are groundbreaking. Like, I've experienced now what it feels like to play a battle royale and drop in and I'm in action immediately. And if I die, I just go out and I come back in again. I'm not doing this 5 to 10 minute multiplayer match, that kind of, can feel like a slow burn by comparison, or like whatever it is, that you're comparing to that's out there now that is, has all the buzz around it. Halo is not that thing. And so I don't think that Halo trying to become that thing is the way that it's going to find success. The only way that they can make Halo occupy that sort of, pinnacle space in the zeitgeist again is for them to be truly innovative, which is very,
risky.
Very difficult. If you look at something like God of War, I mean, that is, hitting the gold mine, the lightning in the bottle. They had this idea to take this character, which was really like not a lot going on. He's just angry and yells a lot. He's brutal. He's aggressive. Kratos was not a very deep, well-rounded character in the original game, save for like a few dynamic elements, going on with his backstory. Obviously, they completely turned that on its head, and he's like one of the most dynamic characters ever in gaming, even though he's a man of few words at this point. So they absolutely crushed it. But like everybody who, and everybody who sets out to make a game, like they want to crush it. They want to, realize their vision as literally and comprehensively as they possibly can. But it doesn't always work like that because that's very, very difficult to do. And, only the best of the best rise to the top. Mm-hmm. And so with Halo, like we all love Halo and we remember when it sort of just came around at a time and it was what it was. Bungie was that. Bungie accomplished the lightning in a bottle with the original Halo trilogy. It hit at the exact right time. And it's a masterpiece. It's the whole series is a classic as far as that trilogy goes. And, that it will always exist as a space in time. But they would have to do it with Halo again. They cannot just add some stuff that other people have done successfully and make Halo somehow culturally relevant again. Like they would have to figure out a way to do a new innovative thing that nobody has done. And then it's distinctly Halo. Like then what people perceive as, what does it mean to be Halo? Like what am I looking at for a Halo game? What experience is that going to offer me? That thing would become a new thing that was new, relevant, and distinct from anything else that's out there. And for a particular franchise IP to accomplish that twice, it's very, very difficult. And I think people are expecting, the world here because it's Halo. It's Halo. How could it disappear? Things disappear all the time. Game franchises recede in relevance, and only the few come back in full force. So it's a tall order what we're expecting from Halo, and I think because it's Halo,
it has that
Halo,
weight, weight on top of it.
Everybody just thinks, they have to do it. They have to be able to bring it back. It's more likely than not that Halo will never be as popular as it was ever again. Do I dream? Do I hope in the same way that you hoped for Final Fantasy 14 to come to Xbox? Yes. Are all things possible? Yes, they are. We've seen that manifest itself recently. Yeah. So it's like we all want that, I think, except for the Sony fanboys out there that just want every Xbox game to fail.
I would push that Halo needs to come to PlayStation. I like Call of Duty's everywhere. Bring Halo to PlayStation, because when you start to think about what is the real aspect, what is the draw, is that people are playing the game and it's a multiplayer game. Let people just play where they are. But at the same time, like, will that happen? I think it becomes a negotiating, strategy, saying, hey, you release your multiplayer games on our platform, we'll release our multiplayer games on your platform, regardless of first party, third party, or whatever kind of deal. And I think then gamers win. And that's what I'm personally hoping for. I don't know if we're anywhere close to that, but I'm a hopeful guy. Like I'm high on that hopium, man.
It is hopium, because as Xbox executive Matt Booty was quoted saying in court, about giving away their exclusives. No effing way.
Well, not giving it wouldn't be a giving away, it'd be considered a horse trade where it's like,
Sure.
Sony, like, listen, like we're in a mutually assured
Give us Final
discussion.
Fantasy, dang it.
Well, and it's like, and we'll sit here and we'll give you guys this as well. Like it ends up becoming like, and I could see a future where the platforms have timed exclusives where it's like, okay, we're gonna sit here and say like our games, we're gonna publish them on your platform, but it's gonna be first to PlayStation and then first to Xbox, because at the end of the day, like game sales are the driving force, and that's where I think the industry's going. It's still like in my mind, I'm still thinking 10 years from now when we're in the 2030s, when you have a whole new generation of gamers coming in going like, but I don't want to own every platform. Why should I have to own every platform? I don't need to own an Android phone and an iPhone at the same time to experience the app stores, in those regards. And so it'll become like this weird thing that I think people, might push back against. It really just depends. We'll have to see what I think the solution though is cloud for a lot of it, where it's just like, okay, Netflix runs on the PlayStation and it runs on the Xbox. On the Xbox, the PlayStation streaming app runs, and on the PlayStation, the Xbox streaming app runs. You're still subscribed, you're still doing the whatever, and then you can kind of just tap into the the code base that's then pushing the game to you. So that becomes an option. It doesn't necessarily become mandatory in that case. But before we transition to Starfield, because I'm really excited to hear your thoughts about it. Because we haven't actually sat down and talked about Starfield yet. A huge shout out. Thank you so much, Bearded Blevins. If you guys aren't following Bearded Blevins, awesome guy. I consider him a great friend. He's let me sleep over at his house. So, I would hope that he trusts me, and I trust him with my life. So he's really tall in real life. So thank you so much for that raid, dude. Please go and be sure to follow Bearded Blevins. He streams on Twitch. And also welcome in Raiders and more. If you guys are enjoying the shows, if you enjoy this, we're going to be doing this podcast, Epic Loot Radio, every other week as just a way of getting all of what's going on in gaming, catching you guys up and giving our thoughts on it. But be sure to like, sub, share, and hopefully come back, for these shows. But that's you made some really great points, obviously, about Halo, because it is this weird position they're in. It kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because they, would we all want them to do something brand new that we haven't seen and it's really exciting? Yes, I think everybody kind of wants that as their first and foremost, but that is so hard to do. Like it's easy to say, like, just do something new and make it fun. Like, okay, that good call.
Make it groundbreaking and better than anything I've ever experienced in my life. Yeah,
ever. That no one is doing it yet. I don't even know what it is, but do it.
Game of the year, come on.
Game of the year.
How is Halo not game of the year every Halo? Like that's absurd.
It's
that's
so long
absurd,
between
Brian.
them.
Should
It's
be
so
game
long.
Zelda can do it. Why can't Halo?
Yeah, but the Zelda's also at that 20 frames a second, so you got to hit that like on on old hardware to be able to get that qualification. Oh man, that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom makes me just angry at Nintendo for not having a Switch 2 out yet, and so we're all like, come on next year, buddy. Let's get a little bit more juice flowing.
Nintendo's gonna Nintendo.
Yeah, Nintendo's gonna do whatever the F they want whenever they want it, and
still,
they're like,
still no Twilight
still
Princess and Wind Waker.
Where's Wind Waker on the Switch?
Yeah.
They came out for the Wii U. Come on, Nintendo. Yeah. Oh,
hey, I'm loving it. My GameCube copies keep going up in value every minute, so I'm okay. It's fine. They don't need to bring. No, I'm kidding. It'd be really great if they brought those titles to Switch.
Patrick says, Brian, I can't believe you said that part out loud. Now we're going to see Android and Apple have more exclusives. Hopefully I did not just curse the universe.
Hey, there's Apple Arcade. Apple Arcade exists. Yeah.
It does.
There's some games that are
it's
only
a service
on there,
thing. Yeah. Service. It's all selling that service model. That's what they're really kind of shooting for. All right, let's talk about Starfield, because this is a game that, like, prior to the Xbox kind of big announcement, I was just like, what is it? Like, they were like, hey, here's a screenshot of the logo. Cool, it's Bethesda. Like, okay. And then it's like finally seeing them show up and really just kind of like, you're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. All of a sudden I was like, dude, this sounds amazing. And as an interesting kind of counterpoint to Baldur's Gate 3, which has that turn-based tactical strategy driven combat, for those of you who are looking for an action game, like it's a shooter, in this case, but then it also has this Bethesda RPG to it. And for me, like, you obviously got the Fallout behind you. I could never really resonate with Fallout. Fallout wasn't my Bethesda game. I played Elder Scrolls, and I was like, yes, I like the high fantasy. My friend really loved Fallout. I loved watching him play Fallout, but I just was like, no, I'm not. It's not my aesthetic. But what Starfield, just like they showed me, I was like, this is great. I'm excited for Starfield. Let's buckle up and go.
It's a lot less brown and dirt colored.
It's very pretty. It feels like, you're actually like, let's go to the stars, let's have this kind of adventure, this space adventure. So I'm very, very much looking forward to it, but I'd like to get your thoughts on it because like, where do you fall? Like, this is a game that obviously I think has a lot of eyes and attention on it, but what's your read right now? Like, are you positive, negative? Are you playing it when it comes out, or are you going to wait?
So I don't know what it is with this game. But for whatever reason, it feels like I have like this involuntary hype blocker on right now. Like that one got you. That one got you.
I love that. Hold on, let me just engage my hype blocker.
No, but it's involuntary. Like for whatever reason. I mean, I saw the showcase. I mean, it looks blanking amazing. This game looks insane. I don't know if it's like No Man's Sky syndrome, especially with the literal like genre and mechanics of the game being like very similar. So here's the thing. I fell in love with the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion as, I guess, a child. I don't know if it's right to say a child. I was like, entering my adolescence, but in my youth, I fell in love with Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Probably still one of my favorite games. It's a janky mess, but like whatever. Yeah. I love it so much. It's so amazing. And for 2006, if you go back and look at 2006 and what came out in 2006, it's insane. It is absolutely insane that game came out in 2006.
Horse armor, baby. That's what started this whole mess.
like that game was so far and above anything else that was out at that time. And most people still had a PlayStation 2 at that time, mind you.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, like,
wild.
When I played that game, it absolutely destroyed my little mind. But, ever since then, I've been a big Bethesda fan just because, like, you win me over once like that. I'm not really going to desert you unless you do something really terrible. Redfall and Fallout 76. But, I really enjoyed Skyrim as well. It's it's the same thing, but it's a new generation. It's better in almost every aspect, except maybe the narrative. But it's better in almost every aspect. And so these games, like, I really have an attachment to these games, and I really love them. Fallout, I know it's behind me, but same as you, like I think there's people that are either like Elder Scrolls, like I live, breathe Elder Scrolls, or Fallout. Like I don't think you can be both. I think you like the other one most likely because the RPG systems and the DNA are similar. But I think there's people that are huge Fallout fans that kind of like Elder Scrolls, and there's people that are huge Elder Scrolls that kind of like Fallout. Right. Usually people don't like hate the other one because it's like you're kind of playing the same game here. Like, how is that possible? So it's like I don't know. I guess I don't want to get my hopes up as somebody that like really is just a giant Elder Scrolls fan. This is not that. So I think I want to keep an open mind. It's in space. I am not necessarily like a huge, like, I don't get like intensely excited for space games. Like I still haven't gotten around to playing the Mass Effect trilogy. I really need to do that. I hear that all three of those games are absolutely amazing.
Don't they have the legendary like remastered edition on Game Pass? Yeah.
Yes. Just a time thing, man. Three very big RPG games. It's kind of scary, I
might be able to stream that because like Mass Effect was a big miss for me. It was one of the things that like I was so ingrained in Final Fantasy 11 that I kept saying like, oh, I'll get to that. Okay, I'll when I take a break, I'll go play Mass Effect.
I mean, good thing because one of them you can still play and the other one you can't. So you might have used your time wisely.
I can still play
you had a limited window to play that one, so you can play the Legendary Edition now of Mass
and
Effect,
that would be what I would do. I would just play the Legendary Edition and go and experience what people continue to do, levy high praise. And
so space, it's cool. Like everything about this game is so cool, and everything that they showed is just it's insane. It's amazing. The level of depth and the layers that they have here, and all the ability to sort of like frame your journey, your adventure, however you want to. Everything from, your starting trait or whatever, where they have like the adoring fan from Oblivion, like following you around, or, they show like, there's one where like you have like parents that like are like very like helicopter, like whatever.
We're gonna give
like,
you stuff too.
Yeah. And everything in between in terms of like all the different planets you can go to, whether you're like more exploration oriented or you're more questing and accomplishment oriented. You might even be like a minor resource outpost type. I mean, there's so much room for there's so much role play potential here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's just gonna be generationally defining in terms of how innovative it is. I guess I just don't want to. It's kind of like when you don't want to see a movie before you read a book or something like that. Like I don't want to have all these preconceptions about what this game is going to be.
You know what I found though is that if you watch the movie then read the book, you're never disappointed. But it's always that I feel a lot of people read the book and then they go see the movie and they're like, that let me down. It's like, no, I like watch the movie. I'm like, oh, that's great, and I'll go read the book, and it's like, oh, that's even better.
And that may not have been a good analogy because I don't even know how that syncs up with this situation one-to-one. But it's something to that effect of like, I know this game is going to be good, and I don't know what my experience is going to be with it. And I think like that's a great starting place.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't decided if I'm going to do the early access. I mean, it's right there, right? For what is it, $30? I think like it's not a lot, but then also it's like, I feel dumb because like, why am I paying money for a game that I'm just going to get?
You're going to get
literally like 5 days later.
After. Yeah.
So I don't know.
It gives you also plenty of time for reviews to get kind of people and sources that you trust. I'm already in. I actually purchased the game on Steam because that's essentially what I was like, I want it on Steam. Like I like Steam as my PC game place. I have issues with the Microsoft Store, and I know we're not talking about the Xbox Activision merger, but I really hope that closes and then the Xbox becomes and just uses battle.net and just says buy Xbox app, cut it out, like we're done with you, and then that becomes their kind of the PC storefront for their games, because battle.net is something I thoroughly appreciate and enjoy. But anyway, I just wanted to jump in on that.
I guess bottom line, it looks great. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. I think it's going to be a game of the year contender. That being said, I just want to sit down and play it. I just want to sit down and play it and have that experience as I play it, be blown away. Something maybe Elden Ring is probably like the best comparison.
Okay.
To this, like Elden Ring, I just like with Miyazaki, with From Software, I just knew it was gonna be
you're
amazing.
like, I'm sold.
So it didn't matter. Like it didn't matter. I could just be overwhelmingly hyped for this game that's gonna come out, and then I had that experience. Like when I jumped into the game and played it for the first 10 hours, I was like, holy cannoli, this is one of the best games I've ever played in my life.
Yeah.
I am a little more cautious. Like I'd rather just save up, like rather than sort of that lead up of, oh man, I can't wait for Starfield to come out. I can't wait for Starfield to come out, and like getting all excited and everything. I think I just want to wait until it's out, it's downloaded on my system. I sit down with my controller, I start playing it, and I'm like, oh my God, this game is so good. Like, what? This game is amazing. I think that's the experience that I want to have. And so like because like, new Bethesda, like they're not looking quite as good as they used to, I mean, I still love them, but you can only re-release Skyrim so many times. And 76, like they're making it better or whatever, and obviously that's a completely different type of game. This is them getting back to what they're good at. There are a lot of people that said that Fallout 4 was like, so and I think it's good. I think it's better than average for sure. I think it's up there. It's like an 8 out of 10 or something. But and especially on launch day, like usually Bethesda games are like a buggy mess or whatever. It's gonna be an all-timer. This game is going to be an all-timer. I don't know what it's going to be like on launch day. I don't know what it's going to be like the first month. And I don't know what it's going to be like for the game of the year conversation. Although I would probably be willing, if I had any extra money to throw around, which I don't, So I gotta be more conscientious about that stuff. But if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would be willing to throw in some money to say that it'll be nominated and it'll be a contender for Game of the Year. But is that a sure bet? No, it's not.
No,
it's definitely not.
That's what makes it a bet. Like,
yeah, it's not. So it's like all signs point to this being, another Elden Ring, another showstopper. That is just going to be a year-defining game and potentially even a generational defining game. But it's like, it doesn't cost me anything to remain tentatively excited and just sort of temper expectations and then get in there and then have that experience and be like, oh my God, this is one of the best games I've ever played. So that's my strategy right now. And it's not even really voluntary. It's not a conscious thing. I've just sort of felt myself doing that. And maybe that's like negative conditioning of the industry, over the last, 5
you're getting older, you just get bitter and bitter and bitter, and then eventually you're
I don't think that's what it is. I think this is a gaming thing specifically. I mean, you do have games like, I don't know, like one of the more recent ones is like Gotham Knights or something. But like you have these games that come out and it's just like, oh my God, dude, like what is it? Redfall. What is this? Like, what were they doing? So and Redfall was like supposed to be like, I mean, sure. I always sort of thought that game was like a bit of a what is it? Not a wolf in sheep's clothing, but like
there's a lot of red flags.
It's it's like lipstick on a pig. Maybe is like a good one. Like it's just
I like vampires, so like I appreciate the aesthetic, and anytime I can go shoot vampires, like that was cool. I enjoyed it, but it was like for me, my whole perspective is like that takes the burn off with Game Pass. It's like, okay, yeah, they got some problems. The lack of 60 frames, like it ends up setting a narrative which makes Starfield have to work harder to overcome that narrative.
It's another thing too. Expectations and stakes are very high, and yeah, it's just if there was a setup for just a colossal tragic fail. This would be it. I wholly expect the game to deliver, and I think Xbox is going to be able to collect their flowers at the end of the year for this one. But, man, if it goes sideways, it's going to go real south.
Yeah, really that's where it's just going to be like, hey, here's a raging fire, and here's a bunch of kerosene on it. And now here's some dynamite that we're just throwing on that. Now, Naya in chat says, I do wonder if Baldur's Gate 3 will have an impact, and that will have an effect on how people actually view Starfield. Do you have any thoughts about Baldur's Gate 3, which is coming in as a Game of the Year contender? Easily my Game of the Year for this year, having not yet played Starfield. And I like you, I'm actually like, I'm on the early access train, but people are like, hey, Brian, you've got, so many subs. Why don't you request a code? I was like, no, I don't want that. Like, I literally want to be a part of this moment, this core gaming experience that we all get to have together. I don't want early access to it. If they gave me the key, I think I would be tempted and installed it.
I mean, it's out
like,
now.
I'm not seeking it out.
You can just go buy it now. Baldur's Gate?
I have Baldur's Gate. I'm talking about Starfield.
Yeah.
I'm playing Baldur's Gate. It's incredible. Okay. It's a great, amazing experience.
I was like, are you waiting for PlayStation or something? I'm waiting for PlayStation. I'm not a PC guy. So that kind of forced me out of the whole content creation space with that game.
But it's coming to PS5.
It is, but there's gonna be 100 bajillion thousand videos out by that point, and for good reason. I mean, it's gone and went now. We're in Madden and Immortals, and then it'll be something. It'll be Starfield.
The fall busy season.
The fall rolls on. So do I think that Baldur's Gate will influence people's perception of Starfield? No. Like, I don't think that anyone credible in the space that does games media and evaluations, reviews, covers games for a living would have a respectable opinion that basically says Starfield is worse because Baldur's Gate 3 exists. However, do I think that it makes the game of the year race contentious? Yes. I think we could very much potentially have a similar situation to, was it 2018, I think, with Red Dead. God, that's a long time ago. No, I think that was 2020. Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War, the original God of... God, was that 2018?
It had to be
Red Dead Redemption 2 come out in 2018?
Yeah. I would have to put money on the least close to 2018, because when you say 2020, like that doesn't...
No.
that doesn't line up mentally because like we are in 2023, so that puts it at 5 years ago, which that feels right for Red Dead Redemption 2.
That
timing.
feels awful for me. Oh my god. But yeah, we might have a similar situation to that, and that's not even that's like if God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2 came out the same year, which they did, and Zelda came out the same year too. Like that's basically what we're looking at here.
Well, a lot of this ends up being things that probably got like a little bit delayed because of all the pandemic, and it's like kind of, and then all of a sudden 2020, you know, hey, we're ready, and boom
to this year. Yeah, I hope we don't have a weak year next year because of that.
I don't think we. From
like
everything that I'm
their gaskets right now, as far as what they've been storing in the bank.
Everything that I'm looking forward to, you know, that's dropping next year, like you know, a lot of things actually did already miss this year that I'm interested in playing, and you know that ends.
I haven't played RE4. I haven't played RE4 this year.
Mm-hmm. Now, on this note, like from, you know, to kind of, I'm actually saying outside of, I do think it will have an impact, especially if Starfield's really, really impressive. And then all of a sudden you have two just massive RPGs, thoroughly loved and developed. And I think the impact ends up being on the rest of the industry itself. I think you'd see you would see some narratives start to shift in terms of like, oh, maybe buyouts aren't such a bad thing. Oh, maybe like, you know, et cetera, isn't bad for the industry. But it has to come out swinging, and it's got to be.
Did Larian get bought by somebody, or is that just
no? They're fully independent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Larian in and of it, but I'm saying like they have the resources, the time, the discipline, and the funding. Larian has that. And so does Bethesda. You know, you have a big pocketbook there. And actually, one of the things that in terms of that I'm personally excited for is that the release version number isn't 1.0 or even 1.01 or something like that. It's 1.6, which tells me that they finished their release version, and then they continue to work on it, and now they're on the 6th iteration of that release version, which. From a development perspective, I'm like, that's a good sign. Doesn't mean it's going to deliver, but it feels like they were like, you know what? This game's good, but what do you need to make it next level, you know, good? And they're like, well, give us more time and we'll do this, and this. And then it seems like Microsoft has at least afforded them that opportunity, but who knows? We'll find out here in 2 weeks.
In terms of tangible effects, what it's more likely to do, other than the two of them affecting the discourse about each other, is I think that they'll affect the discourse, particularly for Western RPGs going forward. So like if now that Baldur's Gate is like, I would say that people are saying that's a generationally defining game. That's with a lot of recency bias, but that is the take right now. We'll see if that, you know, stands the test of time, so to speak. But if Starfield comes out and just knocks it out of the park as well, then, you know, what kind of space does that set up for like an Avowed to come out next year? You know, are people going to be forgiving to that game when it's not as large a scale as a Starfield or a Baldur's Gate 3?
Expectations are going to be
absolutely
wild. Just
devour it and say, oh, this is, you know, mediocre at best.
Right.
And I think a lot of Western RPGs from potentially like AA studios, maybe people will give them the benefit of the doubt because you know that they don't have the resources going in. But, you know, the next, I guess Ubisoft doesn't really make Western RPGs. They make Assassin's Creed games that are really Western RPGs in disguise. So maybe that doesn't count. But the next big, AAA RPG, maybe like something that comes out of EA, Dragon Age, maybe. What if Dragon Age?
Age, I think, is in trouble. Like,
what if Dragon Age doesn't measure up to Baldur's Gate 3? And honestly, that's probably the one. And it's like, I think that BioWare, I think that BioWare has this. I do. I think that Anthem was like the Redfall thing of like, we got told to make the game that we didn't really want to make because
the leadership didn't even know what the game they were trying to make. They were like just fumbling through it.
Make a live service game. We need you to make Destiny. Like, make it in a year and a half or like whatever it was. That never goes well.
What they turned out in that short amount of time. Like, imagine if they were like, here's what we want to make, here's what we're going to make, and then they just worked on it for 5 years. I think they could have really done something special. I actually like the things they did right in that game, like the javelins were incredible, but then everything else around it was just like, what is this like garbage? Why is this so hard? Like, it doesn't even align to anything that we were thinking.
If they just made Anthem like Mass Effect or Dragon Age, like it was just one of those games, but it was I don't know.
A game?
I don't.
Like a full
yeah,
game?
yeah. I'm gonna say like space exploration, but like that's literally Mass Effect. I don't know, something different. Like I don't know. Let's say like a Prometheus, alien style with like small horror elements or whatever, or like Interstellar or something like that. Like more about like I'm on my own out in the wild instead of the Mass Effect. Like you've got your crew members and your relationships. If it was more like you're exploring new planets in this suit and you've got to survive the elements and like make it back to your base or whatever, if they made it like that type of deal and it wasn't shoot all the robot dudes and get the purple loot and like whatever, I think that they
and then
would have gotten
the
a completely
progression
different
was
reception to that game.
Just disgusting. Yeah, man, like what could have been, but they looked at redoing it, and so they were kind of like, hey, here's what we're gonna do, and the guy was in charge of that. Eventually, actually got moved to being in charge of Dragon Age, and he has since actually left the company. Like, the question is like, are there real leadership problems? And then EA coming out like, hey, we would like to be bought, like somebody buy us, please. After we continue to lose all these like licensing deals that we've basically bullied and locked the industry down into exclusives.
So, Inquisition won Game of the Year, I think, from Jeff's deal. I think that was like one of the first years that Jeff did his thing. He either started in like 2012, 2013, or 2014, but they won the official Game Awards, and they might have won the IGN that year too. So I mean, Inquisition got recognized as like a really well-made game. You may not think it was the best of that year, but it got the award. Right. So they've done it before. I don't really know. Like we were talking about Halo and how like the landscape for something like that has changed. And I do think that, first person shooters and multiplayer games, and especially a combination of both of those things, that landscape is much more dynamic and is much more subject to trends than like, I'm gonna be an adventurer and I'm gonna have a fantasy party and we're gonna go out on quests and I have a wizard and a knight and like whatever. Those type of games like Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age. I think those are like kind of tried and true. I mean, it's just like, do you make it well? Is there a lot of depth? Is there a lot of layers here? Is it engaging, etc.? And like almost every Dragon Age, -2 maybe for some people, has delivered on that. So I want to believe that they didn't just forget how to make that kind of game. Like, I don't think that it being 2023 instead of a decade later, Inquisition came out in 2014 and won Game of the Year. It'll be 2024, maybe, if it doesn't get pushed back. It might get pushed back. So it'll be a decade later. I don't know, just that because it's 10 years later, they just forgot how to make, potentially one of the best games of the year in terms of this fantasy RPG role-playing, a squad, RTS light type of game. I think that they know how to do that. Hopefully, I don't know if they, going off and making Anthem, their brains would have gotten all kerfuzzled and they now just don't know how to make games anymore. So I hope that there's not anything to worry about. Yeah. But are they going to be up against it now that like the world, the gaming community as a whole has seen what Western RPGs are capable of? If Starfield also delivers, if Starfield is a pile of crap, then Dragon Age gets to ride in on a golden chariot and be like, we're here to save everyone. And like, what, because it's like, it's the last act that you're going to follow. And thankfully that won't be Baldur's Gate.
And that's what I'm saying about that impact. Is like all of a sudden you're sitting here like Baldur's Gate 3, bada bing. It also comes out to PlayStation to be able to kind of give PlayStation players an option who don't apparently own a PC or ever have, don't have enough internet,
there
like
are some of us out there, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Like, you don't have a computer? Like, how the hell are we talking?
Yeah. What is this?
Oh, what is this magical thing that I've willed into existence? But like, there's a lot of things like it's like with Starfield, the barrier to entry to play that game is vastly reduced, and Xbox continues to make moves in that direction. But it's good that PlayStation players will have something that if they don't want to participate in what Starfield is, then they'll at least be able to participate in an insane game. But the impact, again, like you said, if it fails, you get to come in, it's like, hey, like you don't want to like, it's like I hear a lot of comedians like, oh man, I don't want to follow because like you killed and then you walked into the thing and you're like, oh, I'm not that good or something like that. It's like, oh guys, hey, I know the expectation was set up here. Let's play around with it.
But at the same time, they're already laughing. They're loose.
Right.
You know,
they're loose. It warms up the ground. Right.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you say Starfield just hits and slaps. Then it's like, oh, are we going to continue this? Or are we going to be the ones who drop the ball? Because you don't want to be that team where it's just like, you imagine having like coming off, imagine releasing, like you said, in 2024, where 2023 from an RPG perspective was just, I think, hit after hit after hit. And even the ones that didn't really land weren't, in my mind, like awful games. They were just like, all right, that wasn't the best, game. That wasn't a $70 game. Maybe that was a $40 RPG, and thus you still just like you're coming out swinging. And I think 2024, like you don't want to be the team that drops that ball. You don't want to be like, man, we followed this up with a real swing and a miss.
Well, let me dole out some positivity here.
Yes,
actually.
let's wrap it up with some positivity.
Over the last like 7 or so years, we sort of had this epidemic in the industry of your No Man's Skies, your Cyberpunks, your buggy messes that release that clearly aren't finished. Gamers not getting the product that was advertised or the product up to a standard that you would expect when you pay $60 or more for a game when it launches. And that has become almost the norm. And people have gotten so used to it that they just like expect these games to kind of not be very great. When they come out, you get like a Gotham Knights or what have you. The positive spin on that is that seems to be sort of ending because of the Redfalls, because of the Cyberpunks. Like these devs and these big companies that are controlled, like the corporations that are controlled by people that are very business oriented, that care about their shares and their profit margins, and what they're making this particular quarter, and we got to get this game out by this particular date or whatever. They are starting to take notice, I believe, of like how much damage a cyberpunk type launch can
cost you
to your game,
to the
and
share,
to your brand. Yeah. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
you take a look at something, and Redfall is another example of that, of like, just absolute commercial and critical flop.
Yeah.
So you look at a game like Suicide Squad, that trailer came out and people were like, nuh-uh, I don't want anything to do with that. And so they said, all right, we heard you. Don't worry, we're putting it back in the oven. We're going to let it cook as long as we need to, whatever. And that's a very new concept. It was only like 5 years ago that we even had the concept of people putting out these games that we're like, oh, we'll just patch it. And
we'll
like,
patch it later.
like,
we'll patch it later.
Why is this happening? So as technology is evolving, now, we're sort of getting to that sort of turns over and goes to a positive area, which is, hey, why don't we just take the time that we need and put this game out when we feel good about it, and people will actually, reward us for that, not only with their sentiment, but with their dollar. And I think a lot of companies are finding out that is actually a strategy that works. And we're seeing more and more these games get delayed for, sometimes successively, like 2-3 times delayed, because they're not willing to put out a bad product. And that's a very, very good thing for the industry. And I think that we should applaud that when games get delayed and we were excited about them. I would encourage everybody to never be like, oh, I wanted it to come out sooner. They're delaying it for a reason. They're trying to meet the standard that they need to meet for you, the consumer. So I think that's a trend that we're going to see more and more developers and publishers do. And it's just going to lead to more great, fully completed, feature complete games on release. And we're going to benefit from that.
I hope so. It's going to be interesting to see, because I know Sony is making a bigger push into, games as service-based games. And it's not that they can't be bad, but it's like there is a good chance that they're not going to launch in a state that's feature complete, that feels like an experience. It's like that mindset that we'll fix it later, that basically what's called a minimal viable product, the MVP, it's like, yeah, they release the minimal viable product and then they're going to try to build up from there. And like that's again the marketplace of ideas. So if gamers don't show up and don't support it, then that model ideally might just go away. But not that like a game can't be a really good service-based game, but you just got to launch with that in mind. And at the end of the day, like I said, I'm a Destiny player, but I play Destiny like this part of the year, and then the rest of the year I kind of just get entertained by the people who made Destiny their career and are mad about it, and it's like, all right, like, you made that choice. Good luck on your transition to variety, which is like, like that's hard.
The spice of life.
It is the spice of life. It's the most important thing. And yet, like, the algorithms that we have on our lives, like they reward you. It's kind of like workaholism. Like if you're a workaholic, you're only rewarded with positive feedback. You're providing for your family, you're getting even more money, yada yada yada, and then you're just like working yourself and to death. And that's no way to live at all. But let's wrap up on that. Like your impending doom. Guys, this has been Epic Loot Radio. Thank you, Kirk, for joining. All of his channel is in the description. We're gonna be back next in 2 weeks from now. It's technically Labor Day, so we might have a show that day, we might not, but just note that is something that we got, and we'll keep you guys up to date on the schedule. So be sure to subscribe here at Work the Game, where we do the podcasts, and go check out Kirk, go check out Ginger Prime, go have a wonderful and fantastic day. And Kirk, you have any final thought before I run the cool music that we can dance to behind the scenes?
Thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure. So kind of you to have me on. I really enjoy it, and yeah, hopefully we can do this pretty consistently and provide some great content for everyone. Speaking of great content for everyone, if you do make your way over to my channel, I just did a couple of reviews. It's football season almost, guys, and just did a Madden 24 review. So make sure to go check that out. And we got more reviews coming on the channel. We got Immortals of Avium, which I can't talk about because I got a review code. So maybe me and Brian can talk about that next time we get together.
Maybe we'll do a special. We won't do the show live. We'll just get together on a thing and run it out.
You guys won't even be there. We'll just have a little conversation, just me and Brian, and then we'll post it later. You guys won't get to be in on that until we post it. But yeah, we're having lots of fun over there, and I'm just trying to cover what's going on in the gaming space. I cover content drops for like Marvel Snap and Dead by Daylight. I'm going to be on, Alien and Dead by Daylight. That's so cool. Alien and Ellen Ripley. I'm so psyched.
Dude, that game is awesome. I actually really enjoy Dead by Daylight. Julie,
they have the coolest collabs. Like, that's what makes that game so awesome.
Didn't they just do freaking
Nick Cage, baby?
Nick Cage, yeah.
Nick Cage. I got a Nick Cage video on the channel. Come on over. Drop me a sub if you like what you see when you get there, and I would love to have all you guys. But thank you again so much, Brian, for having you on. You were a great host, and it was my pleasure to be here. And hopefully I didn't talk too much nonsense.
No, dude, I love it. Like I said, I tell you, like I told him in the pre-show, just jump in, cut me off. Like it's like that's the nature, and it's like I want to always try to encourage people. That's how we talk to my family. We're Italian. We just jump in, and it's like you got to shut me down. Like it's like because I'll talk the whole hour. And it's like, no, you got to jump in.
It's like me and my mom, yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you when we see you. And we appreciate y'all being here.
Epic Loot Radio. Epic Loot Radio.